Hello and welcome to Spectrum TV News, a recap of major stories within the week. I am Francis Oyima Edet, coming to you live from the capital city of the Akwa Ibom State. Let's take a look at the headlines. Federal government announces 5 billion naira palliative each for 36 states FCT. Reps Committee frowned at lopsided employment in federal agencies. Plus, Russia opens criminal probe into leader of independent election watchdog. We will bring you details of these stories and more in a moment. Many thanks for joining us. We begin our weekend recap news with a report that the federal government within the week announced a 5 billion naira palliative for each state of the federation, including the Federal Capital Territory, to cushion the impact of the removal of the petrol subsidy. The governor of Borno State, Babagana Zulum, made the announcement in Abuja within the week when he spoke to State House correspondent at the end of the National Economic Council meeting. Recall that Vice President Kashim Shettima presided over the meeting. The council is made up of the governors of the 36 states, governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, and other co-opted government officials. And while the federal government has pledged continued support for efforts that will rid the country of neglected tropical diseases and TDs, one of which is onchocerciasis, popularly known as river blindness. The National Coordinator, Neglected Tropical Diseases, Federal Ministry of Health, Fatai Oyediran, gave the assurance at a 2-week workshop held for entomologists drawn across the 6 geopolitical zones that would support the eradication of onchocerciasis in the country. The National Coordinator, while addressing participants at the workshop, said the disease posed a serious obstacle to the national achievement of universal health coverage. According to him, among all NTDs, Nigeria has the highest burden of onchocerciasis globally, adding that in the effort to eradicate the disease, academics and researchers have been assisting the government in training program officers. Nigeria's leader, President Bola Tinubu, who has said education is Nigeria's foremost tool against poverty. Tinubu made the statement while receiving a delegation from global tech giant Google. He said his administration would leverage digital technology to create Nigeria's desired socio-economic progress that is necessary to transform society, and noted that his administration remains determined to embrace the prospect of digital economy and telecommunications, which he described as the future. Tinubu, while encouraging the delegates to partner with Nigeria, said the youths were good and brilliant people and that his administration takes education very seriously because it is the foremost tool Nigeria has against poverty. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has assured investors that his ongoing repositioning of the economy will receive a boost as he conducts an intensified removal of all bottlenecks in the way of efficient business startup and administration in Nigeria, with a particular emphasis on efficiency in service, tax reviews, and improved security. Receiving the Managing Director of Energy and Natural Resources in Europe, Africa and Middle East for Standard Chartered Bank, Ade Adeola, President Tinubu said his administration was already working hard on making a difference in attracting investments. The President told the delegation that tax reforms are being undertaken with a close observance of best practices across the globe that will favor businesses for the collective prosperity of the nation. In the meantime, President Bola Tinubu will on Monday, August 21st, swear in the newly appointed ministers. The event will hold at the State House Conference, Asa Villa in Abuja by 10 a.m. A statement by the Director, Information Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Willie Bassey, said the ministers are allowed to come with 2 guests each. He either listed the ministers and their assigned portfolios to include Minister of Art, Culture and the Creative Economy, Hannatu Musawa, Minister of Defense, Mohammed Badaru, Minister of Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, and Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Beta Edu, among others. Away from that, the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, within the week chaired the National Economic Council NEC meeting in Abuja. The meeting being held at the Council Chamber of the Presidential Villa Abuja had in attendance governors from across the Federation and other stakeholders. The meeting addressed some of the pertinent economic challenges in the country occasioned by the removal of petrol subsidy, also respected and discussed were security challenges across the country with recent attacks in some parts of the north. We move to the legislature, where the House of Representatives ad hoc committee investigating job racketeering in federal agencies has frowned at what it described as a gross violation of the provisions of the laws governing employment in the country. The committee also demanded an explanation from the management of the Nigerian Institute for Trypanosomiasis and Onchocerciasis research on why they refused to respect the approval granted them by the head of service of the Federation and the Federal Character Commission. Reports say the committee was particularly not happy with the Nigeria Council for Good Science and Technology for failing to respect the constitutional provision on federal character, employing its foundation staff from only 2 geopolitical zones of the country. But a member of the committee, Wole Oke, observed that the employment of the 65 staff failed to take into consideration the provisions of federal character as contained in the 1999 Constitution as amended. In politics, Forum of APC former House of Representatives members have pledged their support for Abdullahi Ganduje administration and the party at large. Leader of the forum, Abdullahi Salani, made the pledge while paying a solidarity visit to the National Secretariat of the party in Abuja. Salani stated that the forum is very positive that Senator Ganduje will translate what he did in Kano State in the party and Nigeria at large. He said there is no doubt that Ganduje will lead the party to continuously forming government in the Federal Republic of Nigeria, adding that the forum is offering itself for any party assignments. The chairman of the forum further congratulated Senator Abdullahi Ganduje on his emergence as the national chairman of the All Progressives Congress.
To let you know that we members of Swagger, we are very much elated, we are very much happy about your selection and eventual election as the national chairman of the party, as well as the national secretary of the party. To show our solidarity, we want to show our support to you. We want to say that you can always count on us, day and night, to give you the necessary support and backing. That is the first reason why we are here. We are so happy because we know the 2 of you are eminently qualified. Having been a former deputy governor, a governor of Kano State, who will say you are not qualified.
Is a man of institutions. He believes in developing institutions. And by developing institutions, that is where you have sustainability. Lagos, you can say there is high degree of sustainability. And the high degree of sustainability is not because Asuwaju has been the governor for over 20 years in Lagos. Asuwaju was a governor for only 18 years, but because he developed institutions, then he has laid the foundation for sustainability for Lagos. Lagos is a great state.
Responding, the APC National Chairman Abdullahi Ganduje promised the forum that the party shall involve them in what they are doing because the forum have institutionalized memory, whether it is party administration or campaign, or how to manage the nation's diversities. Meanwhile, the group under the urges of Southwest Agenda for Ahmed Bola Tinubu have assured continued support for President and the All Progressives Congress. Chairman of the group, Tayo Adeyemi, gave the assurance at a solidarity visit to the national chairman of APC, Abdullahi Ganduje, in Abuja. Adeyemi, while drumming support for the emergence of the Ganduje as the national chairman, described him as an uncommon loyalist to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He added that Ganduje loyalist gesture boosted the confidence of all the group members that he will put the party forward. In his remarks, the APC national chairman said the party will use same national diversity which President Bola Ahmed Tinubu used to move Lagos forward, where he was governor, to move Nigeria forward. We move to judicial matters, where the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos has struck out the illegal possession of firearms charges against the suspended Central Bank of Nigeria CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele by the federal government. Justice Nicholas Owibo gave the order following the application of Muhammad Abubakar, a Director of Public Prosecution (DPP) in the Ministry of Justice, to withdraw the two-count charge. Abubakar relied on Section 108 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015, and Emefiele's counsel, Jebi Daudu, had argued that the prosecution could not withdraw the charge unless the government first perjured itself of its disobedience to the court's July 25 order granting Emefiele 20 million naira bail. In his ruling, Justice Owibo granted the application while condemning the government's conduct, which he said shows no respect to the rule of law. In another development, the management of the University of Calabar, UNICAL, has suspended the Dean, Faculty of Law, Professor Cyril Ndifon, for alleged violation of the provisions of the extant laws and policies of the institution. The suspension, conveyed in a letter by the University Registrar Gabriel Egbe, took effect from August 17th. According to the letter, the suspension came on the heels of the Dean's response to a query earlier issued to him by the university management. They certified with his response the Vice-Chancellor, according to the letter, has relieved Professor Edifan of his position as Dean and placed him on suspension, while the matter is referred to a panel that will be set up to investigate the allegations leveled against him. On security matters, Defense Headquarters DHQ says 3 officers, 22 soldiers, 2 pilots and crew members were killed while 7 were wounded in action during an ambush which resulted in a firefight with insurgents in Wushishi in Niger State. Director, Defense Media Operations Major General Edward Buba made this known when he gave a breakdown of casualties in the ambush of troops in Niger State and an evacuation helicopter that crashed on August 14, 2023. He however warned that no group will strike its own troops without injurious consequences. The breakdown was given at the bi-weekly briefing of the Defense Media Operations.
Troops will continue to respond with overwhelming military force against any group that threatens the safety of citizens and troops alike. The men and women of the military will continue to put themselves in harm's way time and time again in order to protect our great nation. In the first instance, troops, while conducting offensive operation, entered into an ambush. in Kudu General Area in Chiruru Local Government Area of Niger State. And then the ambush and the firefight resulted in the death of 3 officers, 22 soldiers.
When asked about the cause of the helicopter crash, he restated that an investigation is still underway to determine the cause and urged citizens to be wary of propaganda by terrorists and remain patriotic. Insurgents had ambushed troops in the Zongaru area of the state, and some gallant troops of the Nigerian army paid the supreme price. Back here, Akwa Ibom State Governor Pastor Omoina has pledged his readiness to work beyond party lines with federal civil servants from Akwa Ibom State extraction in bridging up more developments to the state. Governor who stated this during an interactive session he had with the federal commissioners, permanent secretary and directors at the Akwa Ibom State Liaison Office Abuja, emphasized that he was ready and free to interact with his people, assuring that he will create time to attend to the things that will bring benefit to the state. He further encouraged Akwa Ibom indigents who are occupying top positions at the federal level to use their positions to bring about life-transforming projects back home. Responding to comments raised during the interactive session, the state chief executive maintained that his administration will provide adequate accommodation to Akwa Ibom indigents working with the Federal Civil Service, as well as partner with the Akwa Ibom community in Abuja to start a small housing scheme that will enable indigents resident in the FCT to have affordable accommodation. Governor Eno thanked everyone for coming out and implored Akwa Ibom people to be proud of a state God has given to them. The governor also called for the deepening of the spirit of togetherness and to support his administration to make a better Akwa Ibom. In the meantime, residents of Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital, have again lamented the current economic situation of the country, describing it as harsh and unsatisfying. A correspondent, Esther Otoyo, who sampled citizens' opinion on the cost of living, completes the report.
Residents of Uyo, while speaking with Spectrum Television, lamented the effect of the fuel subsidy removal on the economy, noting that it has resulted to an increase in the general cost of living of the citizens. They said that the removal of subsidy at the moment was not a wise decision, stressing that modalities such as functioning refineries should be put in place before subsidy removal.
Somebody is buying fuel for 10,000 naira. You cannot even get 10 bars of fuel. You cannot even use that fuel to even travel from Akwa Ibom to Calabar. Is that one a country? Is it a life? It's not a life. So our president will try to do something about it.
As I see the economy of Nigeria, things are getting hard. Some people are suffering. Transportation now, it's hard for people to move from one place to another. And you can see things like food items is costly, so people are suffering.
Other residents, while sharing their experience as a result of the subsidy removal, urged the government to implement social protection measures to mitigate the impact of the subsidy elimination on the vulnerables, such as essential goods and services, subsidies, job creation initiatives, and oil sector reform to increase local production and reduce Nigerians' reliance on importation refined petroleum.
Fine ladies, old men, old women trekking on the road. So the economic of this country is very poor. We are suffering, hungry. You will see some people faint, collapse anyhow. Because of what? Hungry. Things are high. Biscuit of 50 naira is now 100 naira. Now, present bread of 100 naira is now 150 naira. Tell me, if you don't have what to do, how will you eat? Life is really hard. Nobody wants to go through the vehicle because by the place you used to pay maybe 100 naira, and you find it difficult to pay 200 now because most of the vehicle they'll tell you 200. So it's actually very crunchy.
In Uyu, Esther Otoyo, Spectrum News.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian book enthusiast and member of the Yale Book Club, John Obot, is set to officially attempt the World Guinness record for the longest reading aloud marathon by an individual termed a readathon. Speaking with Spectrum Television, Obot, who intends to read 40 selected Nigerian and foreign books for a period of 145 hours, said the aim is to promote reading culture in youth and also to encourage authors in their writing professions. The reader, while assuring that the marathon will be an interesting and exciting experience, appreciated the management of Spectrum Television for their support and commitment towards the important project in ensuring that the attempt comes out successful and Nigeria is put on the world map yet again. The reading marathon is scheduled to hold from September 9th to 15th, 2023 at the Nelson Mandela Hall, Wetbridge Hotels and Suites, IBB Avenue, opposite Ibom Hall, Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. It will also be streamed live on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at John Obot Reads Aloud. Recall that the records were previously held by Deepik Benjan from Nepal in 2008, who read 17 books for 113 hours, 15 minutes. Olubayode Oluwami from Nigeria in 2018. He read 23 published books for the period of 122 hours, and currently by Resbai Isakov from Kazakhstan in 2022, who spent 124 hours reading different books in Bursa, Turkey. And still to come in the news, global bond yields rise. Let's stay with us.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Every society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of these relationships determines how well people, relationships, organizations thrive and how long they stick together. Join Uyai Anyekan on Connect every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and on Sunday 2:30 to 3 p.m. on Channel 421 on StarTimes to catch all the conversations, interviews, real stories and how to navigate relationships and family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect live on Spectrum Television.
And thanks for staying with us. And now to the rest of the news stories. Move to Africa, where troops of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, have said they're ready to participate in a standby force that could intervene in the Republic of Niger after the coup seized power from President Mohamed Bazoum. ECOWAS issued a 7-day ultimatum to the military to restore the president or rig sanctions, including possible military actions. According to reports at a meeting in Ghana's capital Accra within the week, the defense chief said they are prepared to reinstate the democratic order in Niger. Meanwhile, jihadist insurgents have gripped Africa's Sahel region for more than a decade, breaking out in northern Mali in 2012 before spreading to neighboring Niger and Burkina Faso in 2015. This is as 20 more soldiers have reportedly been wounded in an attack described as the heaviest losses since the July 26 coup, when the presidential guard ousted Bazoum and detained him and his family. ECOWAS has condemned the killings of at least 1,700 soldiers in a recent ambush close to the Mali border. In a statement in response to the killing of the Nigerian soldiers, ECOWAS said that the country had become vulnerable as a result of President Mohamed Bazoum being ousted by the military coup. The West African bloc cautioned the coup plotters about the importance of adhering to its order by re-establishing constitutional order. And while the new U.S. ambassador to Niger is expected to soon take up her role in the country's capital, Niamey, Kathleen Fitzgibbon has been tasked with leading the U.S. mission in Niger during that what the State Department Deputy Spokesperson Vernon Patel described as a critical time. The envoy is also expected to coordinate the U.S. government's efforts in addressing the coup and supporting American stock in Niger. Meanwhile, Patel did not clarify when the new envoy would travel to Niger. However, he told reporters that her travel to Niger does not signal a change in the American government's stance towards the military seizure of power. He said the U.S. remained committed to promoting security, stability, and democracy in the Sahel region. Move now to Germany, where the Foreign Affairs Ministry in Germany has thrown its weight behind the European Union sanctions against the Niger Republic military junta EU foreign ministers are expected to discuss the Niger situation, including sanctions, at a meeting in Toledo, Spain on August 31st, 2023. The EU, one of the biggest providers of aid to Niger, said last month it was suspending security cooperation and financial support that had been set at 503 million euros in 2021 through 2024 to help improve governance and education. In comment posted to X, the social media platform formerly known as Twitter, the foreign ministry said its ministers Annalena Baerbock has held talks with African Union Chair Musa Mohammed, U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, and other stakeholders about the coup in Niger. Still in Africa, the United States has expressed concern over the threat of worsening violence in Mali, citing attacks on UN peacekeepers. The State Department spokesman Matthew Miller said the attacks were unacceptable and condemned such violence and the larger threat posed by armed actors operating there. On Monday, the UN peacekeeping mission in Mali, MINUSMA, said it had been forced to withdraw earlier than usual from the northern town of Ber amid deteriorating security. The U.S. State Department says the attacks highlighted the threat of worsening violence and the importance of all Malian parties settling their differences peacefully. Elsewhere, popular Senegalese opposition leader Ousmane Sonko, who's been on hunger strike for 2 weeks in protest against his detention, has been taken into intensive care, according to his allies. Patef says the authorities were responsible for Sonko's condition after they charged and detained him for insurrection and conspiracy against the state, among other crimes. There has been no statement from the authorities on Sonko's condition. He plans to run for president in February next year, but has been engaged in a bitter past struggle with the authorities since 2021, when he was placed under investigation in a moral corruption case in June. Sonko was sentenced in absentia to 2 months in prison, which he claimed was politically motivated, that triggered angry clashes by supporters that left 24 people dead, according to Amnesty International. The next month, he was arrested, and earlier this week, he was charged with fomenting insurrection. In Kenya, the High Court has released on bail a senator and 2 former county officials linked to a scholarship scandal. The 3 were arrested on Wednesday on allegation that they conspired to steal about 1.1 billion Kenyan shillings meant to fund further education for Kenyan students in Finland and Canada. The senator and his co-accused are expected to face 11 charges. The senator has previously denied misappropriating the money. The magistrate ruled the trial could not begin until all the 4 suspects were presented in court. Meanwhile, Kenyan police had on Wednesday tweeted that one of the suspects, Joseph Maritim, had fled the country. In the meantime, the majority of participants of a 3-day meeting in the Democratic Republic of Congo's parliament have voted to lift military rule in 2 eastern provinces deeply affected by long-ranging insecurity. Reports say the states of Sega, where military authorities replace civil rule, was put in place by the central government in May 2021 with an aim of fighting armed groups operating in Ituri and North Kivu provinces. But a recent report to the UN Security Council by Secretary General Antonio Guterres last week said the situation has become worse in the 2 provinces, where about 4 million people have been displaced. Still in Africa, more than 60 people reportedly feared death after a boat carrying migrants from Senegal was found off Cape Verde in West Africa. Reports say 38 people, including children, were rescued on the island of Sal. Meanwhile, Cape Verde officials have called for global action on migration to help prevent further loss of life. On the foreign scene, a number of people are feared dead after a private jet crashed into a road while attempting to land in Malaysia. Police told newsmen that 2 motorists and 8 people on board were killed when it hit Gothra Highway near Elimina. The Aviation Authority, however, did not confirm the toll. Reports say the plane, a Beechcraft Model 390, was traveling from Lekawi to Selengo and was attempting to land when it crashed. Meanwhile, the France's former president Nicolas Sarkozy has stirred outrage in Kyiv and Paris by suggesting Russia's invasion of Ukraine could be ended with new referendums in occupied territories. Speaking particularly about the Crimea Peninsula, which Russia claimed to have annexed in 2014, the former French leader said that any return to the way things were before is an illusion. The ex-president insisted that Russian leader Vladimir Putin was not irrational and could be reached with the right kind of diplomacy from Europe, harking back to Moscow's 2008 invasion of Georgia, when Sarkozy said he convinced Putin to withdraw his tanks. Reports say while in office, Sarkozy had deliberately participated in a criminal conspiracy for Russia's seizure of Ukrainian territories. The ex-president, who has spent much of his time since leaving office battling a slew of legal cases, was also attacked at home in France. Elsewhere, prosecutors have asked the judge to set a trial date of March 4th next year for the election racketeering and conspiracy case against former President Donald Trump in the U.S. state of Georgia. The defense is likely to push for a later start when the 77-year-old Republican billionaire facing 4 criminal trials as he bids for a return to the White House. Reports say the proposal would be placed the opening just one day before Super Tuesday, when more than a dozen states vote in the Republican primary contest that determines who will be the party's flag bearer in the 2024 election. It would also come just 8 days before judges vote. And recall that Trump was indicted on Monday on charges of racketeering and a string of election crimes after a sprawling 2-year probe into his efforts to overturn his 2020 defeat to Joe Biden in the Peach State. Meanwhile, an Iranian filmmaker and his producer reportedly face prison time and being barred from filmmaking after they showcased a movie at the Cannes Film Festival without government approval, drawing immediate criticism internationally from leading American director Martin Scorsese and others. Director Saeed Rostai and producer Javad Norozbegi traveled to Cannes last year to show Layla's Brothers, competing for the festival's Grand Palme d'Or. The film focused on a family struggling to make ends meet as Iran faces international sanctions and includes sequences showing protests in the Islamic Republic as a series of nationwide demonstrations shook the nation. The film also depicts security forces beating demonstrators protesting Iran's ailing economy, which has already sparked mass protests and bloody security force crackdowns, killing hundreds. The family, in its losses, all its savings, over the rapid depreciation of Iran's real currency, something Iranians across the country have lived with for years. Additionally, the aging patriarch hoarding his family's wealth and forcing them into squalor for a chance at personal glory can be seen as an allegory to Iran's theocracy. To Israel now, where the country has said the United States have approved the landmark sale of the Arrow 3 hypersonic missile defense system to Germany in the country's biggest military deal, worth $3.5 billion. The Arrow 3 system, an interceptor designed to shoot down ballistic missiles above the Earth's atmosphere, is jointly delivered and developed and produced by Israel and the United States. Israel Defense Minister said in a statement the U.S. State Department had notified of the U.S. government's approval for Germany to procure the Arrow 3 system. The ministry said senior officials from the Israeli and German defense ministries would sign a letter of commitment to the deal with a preliminary payment of $600 million. Elsewhere, thousands were ordered to flee wildfire advancing on one of the largest cities in Canada's far north, crammed into a local airport within the week to board emergency evacuation flights as convoys sneaked south to safety on the only open highway. The order made late Wednesday to evacuate Yellowknife in the Northwest Territories marked the latest chapter of a terrible summer for wildfires in Canada, with tens of thousands of people forced to leave their homes and vast swaths of land scorched. Meanwhile, more than 20,000 residents of Yellowknife, the regional capital, have been given until noon to leave by road or on commercial and military flights. Still on the foreign scene, the Russian authorities have opened a criminal investigation into one of the leaders of a prominent independent election monitoring group. The case against Grigory Mekoyan's, co-chair of Russia's leading election watchdog Golos, is the latest step in the month-long crackdown on Kremlin critics and rights activists that the government ratcheted up after sending troops into Ukraine. Meanwhile, Melkonyan's lawyer, Mikhail Brekukov, told the Association of Journalists that his client is facing charges of organizing activities of an undesirable group, a criminal offense punishable by up to 6 years in prison. Golos has not been labeled undesirable, a label that under a 2015 law makes involvement with such organizations a criminal offense, but it was once a member of the European Network on Election Monitoring Organizations, a group that was declared undesirable in Russia in 2021. In a related development, the Prime Ministers of Estonia, Kaja Kallas, Latvia, Otto Kerins, and Lithuania, Narinda Simut, have released a joint statement confirming their joining the G7 declaration of support for Ukraine. In a signed statement, they noted that only NATO membership will provide Ukraine with security guarantees. The Prime Ministers added that they will work with Ukraine within the multilateral framework to establish security commitments and arrangements that would help Ukraine win the war as soon as possible. On a business news, global government bond yields extended their climb with the US 30 years reaching the highest point since 2011 and other benchmark returning to 2008 levels as resilient economic data challenges that view central bank rates are peaking.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Every society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of these relationships determines how well people, relationships, organizations thrive and how long they stick together. Join Uyai Anyekan on Connect every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and on Sunday 2:30 to 3 p.m. on channel 421 on StarTimes to catch all the conversations, interviews, real stories and how to navigate relationships and family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect live on Spectrum Television.
Nigerian police force, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but you can't be talking about cases which are in court,
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Glad to welcome you back. Sorry for the glitch there. Meanwhile, Transcorp Power Limited has consolidated its position in Nigeria's power sector as it acquired a 60% stake in Abuja Electricity Distribution Company, AEDC. Following the acquisition, Christopher Esevunukwe, the managing director and CEO of Transcorp Power Limited, has been appointed as the new managing director and CEO of AEDC. Transcorp Group, whose biggest shareholder is businessman Tony Elumelu, is one of Nigeria's leading conglomerates with investment in the hospitality, power, and oil and gas sectors. Prior to his appointment as the MD and CEO of AEDC, Ezefulukwe was the MD and CEO of Transcorp Power Limited, Ucheli, a 972 megawatt thermal plant. We move to health, where the World Health Organization, WHO, has opened its first summit on traditional medicine, with the group saying it was seeking to collect evidence and data to allow for safe use of such treatment. In his remark, the WHO chief, Tedros Ghebreyesus, said the agency is working to build the evidence and data to inform policy standards and regulation for the safe, cost-effective, and equitable use of traditional medicine. Tedros, while noting that traditional medicines are a first port of call for millions of people worldwide, said it could bridge healthcare access gaps, but was one of value if used appropriately, effectively, and safely.
Our environment. That's why WHO is committed to supporting countries to unlock the potential of traditional medicine through Global Traditional Medicine Center in Jamnagar, which I had the honor to launch with His Excellency Prime Minister Modi last year. There is a growing demand for traditional medicine across countries, communities, and cultures. Traditional, complementary.
We move to sports, where Bendel Insurance FC of Benin Edo State will make history once more as they play at the continental stage for the first time after 34 years in the opening game of this season's CAF Confederation Cup against Aso Chalef of Algeria today. Aso Chalef are the 2022-2023 Algerian Cup winners and will face Nigeria's Federation Cup holders Bendel Insurance across two legs, and the winner will proceed to the second round of Africa's second-tier club competition. Chairman of the Edo State Sports Commission Yusuf Ali, in a statement on Wednesday in Benin, appealed to the Benin Arsenal's fans to come out in their numbers to cheer their darling team to victory, stressing that all gates to the main bowl will be wide open for free-to-all spectators for the match bill to kick off by 4 p.m. On our entertainment news, Michael Parkinson, the veteran British chart show host whose decade-spanning career featured interviews with some of the world's highest profile figures, has died at the age of 88. His BBC show Pakistan, which first aired in June 1971, made him a household name. According to reports, he died late on Wednesday following a brief illness. Muhammad Ali, Fred Astaire, Elton John, Paul McCartney, and Peter Sellers were just a few of the famous names to grace his interview couch. Others included Lauren Bacall, David Bowie, Tom Cruise, Helen Mirren, and Gwyneth Paltrow. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website SpectrumTv.ng. You've been watching Spectrum TV News, a recap of major stories within the week. I am Francis Oyima Eden. Bye-bye.